I've told parts of this story before. In fact, sometimes I used an avatar named Behringer to help me tell it. Behringer wasn't a name I made up. It was the safety name I was given at the trauma center after I was shot. And maybe, for a while, it was easier to let Behringer tell the story. But this happened to me, so this time, I want to tell you myself. On December 17th, 2019, I was staying at my parents' home outside Atlanta. I had been helping care for my elderly mother, although thankfully she wasn't home that night. It was a Monday. I had been working remotely and had just finished a project that I was ridiculously proud of. I called my husband to tell him about it, made myself an avocado toast, poured a glass of wine, and sat down, feeling pretty good about my day. It was completely ordinary until I heard banging at the front door. At first, I did what I think a lot of us do. I tried to make the sound fit the ordinary evening that I was having. I was thinking that maybe someone in our large family was trying to get in. Maybe I didn't hear them knocking. But then the banging became harder and harder. The hair on the back of my head stood up. My stomach dropped. Someone was trying to kick in the front door. And suddenly I had a decision to make. Fast. Could I get to the garage, lock myself in the car, and drive away? Maybe, but I didn't know what was on the other side of that garage door. Could their vehicle be blocking me in? Could someone be out there waiting? I thought about going through the back sliding door, but it was dark outside, and I'd been meaning to replace the light back there. And the handle on that slider had been removed because my mother, an interior decorator, liked her beautiful silhouette blinds to hang just right. That's funny now. It wasn't funny then. I thought about going through the basement, but that meant finding a key in the dark while people were coming through the front door. And somewhere in those few seconds, another scenario came back to me. Years earlier in Colorado, I had heard about an elderly couple who tried to evacuate a wildfire through their garage. The fire overtook the home before they could escape. I had thought about that story. I had asked myself what I might do in a similar situation. And years later, in a completely different emergency, that mental exercise came back to me. So I made a decision. I was going upstairs. That was where my firearm was. To get there, I had to cross through a foyer directly in front of the door. I could see their silhouettes through the side windows, and they could see me. The kicking became more aggressive. I just kept moving. I remember thinking, I don't know if they're going to shoot me or chase me, but I just told myself, at least I have a head start, so keep moving. I made it upstairs, into the bedroom, locked the door, retrieved my firearm, and took cover behind the bed. Simultaneously, the front door came crashing in, and I heard a gunshot. To this day, I don't know why that shot was fired or where it was directed. I had my phone ready for 911. But the screen had gone dark and there wasn't time. I could hear them pounding up the stairs. Then the bedroom door came crashing open. I fired. 3 rounds struck the first assailant, and on the 3rd round, my firearm malfunctioned. The silence that followed is difficult to describe. Time seemed to hang in the air, and I remember thinking, "Dear God, I'm coming home. Are you ready for me?" Then unexpectedly, I heard them retreating. They were stumbling back down the stairs. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know then that there were 4 armed assailants. I wouldn't learn that until much later. Eventually, I looked toward the front porch. One of the men looked directly up at me, made eye contact. He raised his firearm. I remember saying, "No." I turned, trying to make myself a smaller target. He fired. 1 round struck me in the abdomen, and that 1 round changed the rest of my life. It tore through my small intestine, ricocheted off my pelvis, and caused catastrophic internal bleeding. I remember pieces of the 911 call, coming in and out of consciousness, hearing the operator asking questions and thinking, just please tell me, is someone coming? And someone was. A paramedic reached me. Then came Flight for Life, the trauma team, surgeons, nurses, blood transfusions, life support. I was resuscitated multiple times. I spent weeks in the hospital and ultimately lost my right leg below the knee. There were more surgeries and a long recovery ahead, but I survived. And I've spent years thinking about why. Not because I believed I did everything right. I didn't. That's exactly one of the most important parts of this story. There were things I had done before that night that helped me. My professional background had taught me to think about risk. I had played scenarios through my mind. When the situation changed, I evaluated options. I moved. I took action. Those things helped keep me alive long enough for the first responders, flight crew, and trauma professionals to take over. But there were also things I hadn't done. The porch light I'd been meaning to replace, the handle on the sliding door, knowing exactly where the basement key was, and most importantly, my firearm. I knew it had experienced a malfunction before. I believed the problem had been corrected, but I hadn't made it a priority to properly verify that it was functioning reliably. Life was busy. I was helping care for my mother. I was working. I was being pulled in a million directions, just like everybody else. And I let something important slide. When I needed that firearm most, it malfunctioned. That's difficult for me to admit, but it's also why I tell this story. Preparedness isn't what we intend to do. It's what we've actually done before the moment arrives. Had I made different decisions before that night, I could have been better prepared. And had I made a different decision during those first few seconds, had I not gone upstairs, I would have been downstairs at the mercy of 4 violent, armed men. I don't know what would have happened. I don't need to speculate. I know the choice I made gave me an option, and that option kept me alive long enough for help to reach me. For a long time afterward, I kept returning to that night, not because I wanted to relive it. I wanted to understand it. What helped me? What failed me? What did I do well? What mistakes did I make? What had I done long before that night that mattered when seconds suddenly mattered? And what could someone else learn from all of it without ever having to experience what I did? Those questions eventually became the STARS framework: scenarios, triggers, action, routines, stoicism. STARS didn't come from believing I had handled a crisis perfectly. It came from examining what helped me survive and learning from what didn't. And that's really what Lori's Vigilant Living is about. I'm not here to tell you exactly what you should do. Your circumstances, abilities, family, and your choices are your own. And this isn't about living afraid. Quite the opposite. I want us to live fully. I just want us to think about some things before we're forced to think about them. Because the middle of a crisis is a terrible time to discover that something you've been meaning to take care of still isn't taken care of. I've joked that after being resuscitated several times that if I were a cat, I might have 6 or 7 lives left. I don't know how many I have, but I do intend to make this one count. And if something I learned, the things I got right or the things I got wrong, helps someone else make one better decision before their moment ever comes, then something good came from a terrible night. We don't have to experience every crisis ourselves to learn from those who have. Better decisions begin long before they're ever tested.